it's me. I thought I would do another quick video, because I get asked a lot about books. Go figure. And mostly about books, like people are like, oh, what do you like? Can you recommend a book? And of course it depends on what you like to read. But I decided to just pull some books off my bookshelf and go over some of the books that I really enjoy or have enjoyed, books that I recommend semi-regularly to people. And that way, you could just check the video if you needed maybe a book recommendation from me. I might do more of these because I had a lot of books that I would recommend for different reasons and in different genres because I read very widely. But this stack will be the first pass of stuff that I like reading. Oh, there goes my cat. I'm going to start with The House at Riverton by Kate Morton, which is a book I picked up kind of randomly and really, really enjoyed, and it got me into Kate Morton. I've read, I think, everything else she's published so far. Oh, except for the one about the girl on the boat from Australia. I didn't pick that one up because it didn't sound interesting. This book is about a woman who is dying, and she wants to, before she dies, tell the true story of something that happened in a house that she worked in the 1920s. And so Kate Morton does this thing where she usually writes a frame story, and then there's something else happening in the past, and you kind of go between the past and the present. And as the story unfolds, it's kind of Great Gatsby-esque, and it's, I just found it really, really difficult to put down. And I've enjoyed her other books as well, but The House at Riverton, I think, is probably still my favorite. Another book that I really love is In the Woods by Tana French. Sorry, these are all going to look backwards to you, but the reason I got sent this book when I was a reviewer for Blog Critics, and I fell in love with it. And then I remember they sent me the likeness as well, and when I picked it up and realized it didn't have the same main character, I didn't read another Tana French book for years because I was so mad because I loved the characters. Rob is the name of the main character in this book, and I loved him so much. I was like, how can you write a book and it's not about Rob? But I got over it. I've enjoyed all the Dublin Murder Squad novels, but In the Woods is just, it's really dark and atmospheric. I usually recommend it for fall and winter because it just kind of has that feeling to it. And I mean, it's kind of a cold case about missing children in the woods in Ireland. And it's a really good book if you like that kind of thing. Now, one author and book series I recommend all the time is the Peter Grant books by Ben Aaronovitch. I'm just going to hold up one of them, which is Broken Homes. This is not the first one. I think the first one, depending on where you live, is either called Midnight Riot or Rivers of London. Peter Grant is a Met police officer in London, and he gets recruited onto into a division that studies supernatural crimes and phenomena and stuff like that. And when I explained it to my 12-year-old son, he was like, oh, it's Harry Potter for adults because Peter's learning magic even as he's investigating certain strange things. And I was like, yeah, it kind of is. So I would start with, Midnight Riot, Rivers of London. But they're a really fun read, kind of fantasy, magical realism. Now, this book I think is not maybe as well known as some others, and I still have it. I don't know. I know he wrote at least one other But it's called City of Masks by Daniel Hecht. And it has this main character named Cree Black, who is a paranormal investigator. And she gets, I picked this up because it's set in New Orleans, which is kind of my hometown. She gets called to investigate ghosts in New Orleans, and it's just, I just like that kind of thing. I know he wrote another Cree Black novel. I actually have it, Land of Echoes. I don't even think I ever finished that one, but this one is really good. I can at least vouch for this one. And I don't know if there were any others after that, but City of Masks is a nice one. This one I still haven't seen. There's like a TV movie mini-series made from this book, Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. Or Mantle, I don't know. I don't know where to put the emphasis there. I really, I found this at the Half Price bookstore, and I had heard good things about it, but I was like, oh, I'm not buying this massive book, and then I found it, and I had a really long flight coming up to New York, and I picked this book up, and I could not put it down. Like, the first, chapter was kind of hard for me to get into. I was kind of like, I don't know, but once it got rolling, I was really engrossed. So, and then there's a sequel, which I also have, Bring Up the Bodies, and I believe she's working on a third one. It's all about Thomas, I'm going to get the wrong one. I'm like, Thomas Cromwell. See? But like, there's so many Thomases back then. So it's him in the court of Henry VIII, and Anne Boleyn is on the rise, and Catherine of Aragon is on her way out of favor, and him navigating basically that court and all the intricacies. There we go. Oh, there goes my cat again. That was Minerva. She's the big one of the court. And if you know how the story ends, you know where it's going. But the getting there is really, really interesting the way this is written. And then we'll go a little lighter. Well, I don't know about lighter. We'll go a little less less literary maybe? I don't know, because I do think this has a literary bit. So, A Darker Shade of Magic. I think probably a lot of you know this book and have read this book in this series, the Shades of Magic series. I really just fell in love with the character of Kell, who is able to go between their, 4 different Londons, but Black London is sealed off. White London is dying. Gray London is mundane. There's like no magic in that world. And then Red London is the London that is full of magic. And Kell is from Red London, and he can travel between all the Londons. And the world building in this book is just amazing. But honestly, the character of Kell is what really captured my heart. I know a lot of people like Lila. She's not my thing. I find her a little bit cliche as a strong female character or whatever, but I read the second one. I've started on the third. I didn't like the second one as much because it was a kind of Magic Olympics thing that just doesn't interest me, but the third one promises to finish out the series in a really exciting way, so I'm excited to read it. In a similar vein, The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. I love this series so much that I read it. I sat down, I think I read each book in inside of 3 days. And then my kids were like, what is this? So now I'm reading the books aloud to them. Yes, even with the swears. And my kids are like, they love Ronan. He's their favorite character. If you're unfamiliar with that book, in that series. It's about these teenagers in a small town in Virginia, and they are hunting for a dead, lost Welsh king, and they've awakened a magical ley line that runs through their town, which is causing all kinds of, stuff. I mean, there's no good way to condense the plot, but it's really well done. The characters are all really engaging. They feel three-dimensional. You really feel like you're immersed in the world, and it's a really good series. I avoided it for a long time because whenever anybody says something's really, really good, and here I am telling you things are really, really good, but whenever somebody says something's really, really good, I tend to avoid it out of I'm naturally contrary, and I'm like, I don't want it then. You can't tell me what's good. I don't want to hear it. So don't be like me. Listen when people tell you, what, this is worth reading. And then, yes, this is a little bit lighter. The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, which is just a really fun, 18th century romp of, these, this main character, Monty, who is going on his, grand tour, as they did back then, with his friend and his sister, and all of the kind of adventures they get into, and also, if you know me, I love my gay boy love stories, and so Monty has a crush on his best friend, and he doesn't know what to do about that, and so there's a lot of kind of fun, emotional stuff going on as well. And it's one of the only books I've seen that addresses race issues from that period, because the best friend is part Black, and so it does a really nice job of addressing the ways that was, looked at back then, the ways people with darker skin were treated in that time period. And finally, a couple of Sherlock Holmes stories, books, not the Conan Doyle books, which of course I love, but there's so much else out there that is more than that. And these two are two of my favorites. This one is The Last Sherlock Holmes Story by Michael Dibdin, which is it's really, really brilliantly written. I don't know how else I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give it away, but it's a Jack the Ripper thing, and that scene, you kind of go, oh, Holmes and Jack the Ripper, but this one is really well done. And so I do highly recommend it if you like Sherlock Holmes, and you want something that has an authentic voice to the originals, then I definitely recommend this one. If you like a little bit of science fiction with your Sherlock Holmes, if you want Sherlock Holmes with a side of sci-fi, Exit Sherlock Holmes, which is this book that I found years ago in a half-price bookstore. I don't know if it's even still in print. I wrote my name in it because I was oh gosh, this is when I was writing because I must have been 12 or 13 when I found this, but oh, it came from Playboy Press, really? It's by Robert Lee Hall. Oh, it was written in 1977, and it's got time travel and Moriarty's there. I mean, it's different, but it is definitely, I think, one of the more unique Sherlock Holmes books I've ever read, Exit Sherlock Holmes. So that's it. This has gone on already probably way too long, but that's it for this stack of stuff. I've got to go put all this back on my shelf now. And if you have any books you would like to recommend to me, I would love to hear about them. And I'll probably have a few more, another stack sometime. But those are books that I do recommend when people are always asking me, hey, what should I read? Any one of those. So thanks for hanging out and listening, and I'll be back whenever.